You drive a hard bargain, Colonel.
I have no choice. I must contact Colonel Phillips.
What do you say, Jim?
At least it's no worse than going by bunker.
We will supply you with guns and ammunition, and we will do everything we can to help you.
Okay, Colonel. When do we start?
With luck, tonight.
Spurred on by a crazy hope of eventual escape to Australia, we set out in the stolen motorboat across the Gulf of Leyte, down through the Strait of Surigao, traveling by night only and out of the lanes of Japanese shipping. By day, we slept in carefully camouflaged hideouts, taking turns at keeping watch, stealing a can of gasoline here and a can there, provisioned by friendly Filipinos who were always glad to lend a hand. Moving steadily southward, always with the hot breath of the Japs on the backs of our necks. Until finally, our voyaging done, we moved by nightmare routes into the heart of Mindanao, into a world we had never known existed. 3 conquering heroes, stumbling along footsore and weary, gnawed at by insects, dirty and torn and disheveled, the blind leading the blind.
If and when I ever get out of this place, I'm going to hang one on so that 10 years later I'll get tight just thinking about it.
¿Cómo está, tío? Dili!
What's he saying?
But he's a farmer.
Ask him if there are any Japanese around here.
Do no baya pondini?
Unsa?
Do no baya pondini?
Waray mga hapon din eh.
He says no. No people here at all.
Tell him we're Americans.
Americanos.
Americanos?
Ask him if he's ever heard of an American colonel named Phillips on Mindanao.
Nakaiba baka maugdo ng gitawag Colonel Phillips din sa Mindanao.
Colonel Phillips? Colonel Phillips? Colonel Phillips?
Hey, cut that out!
Mga Amerikano sila, nangingita kang Colonel Phillips.
Hey, what do these guys do?
They shoot, sir, they shoot.
I heard you the first time.
Hey, Mac, these must be a couple of those American guerrillas we heard about.
Told you we took the wrong turn. This ain't the Philippines. It's Africa. And Tarzan himself.
Wait, Jeff. Excuse me, buddy. But if my memory serves me right, that thing you got in your mouth is a stateside butt.
Look, they can talk, too.
Thanks.
Thanks. I shall return. Douglas MacArthur.
That's a new brand, ain't it? You got a match? Where are you from, sailor?
Macon, Georgia. You'll make some of it?
No, he means how did you get here?
We swam in. That answer your question?
Okay, sailor.
You may come in, sir.
Say, who's he?
Him? Oh, just a Navy officer, that's all.
He's up there.
Colonel Phillips?
Come in.
Ensign Palmer, sir. Torpedo Squadron 3.
Where the devil did you come from?
Colonel DiMolanta, sir. He's organizing the guerrilla movement on Leyte.
How is the old boy?
Oh, just fine.
What's he want? Sit down.
Thank you.
Like a drink of water?
Thank you, Colonel.
Well, what's he want?
To tell you, Colonel, that if you'll supply the arms and ammunition, he'll take care of the Japs on Leyte.
Now listen, Palmer. You tell Colonel DiMolanta for me that we don't care if he never kills a Jap. What General MacArthur wants is a spy service, a civil government, intelligence, a people's army ready to act when we're ready, and not before. You get that?
Yes, sir.
All right, then. Go on back up there and tell Colonel DiMolanta I said to get going. Later on, we'll want to establish a string of radio stations up and down the coast, so that every time a Jap sneezes, General MacArthur will know about it. But first, get organized. Understand?
Well, yes, sir. But I hadn't planned on returning to Leyte. The only reason I came here was that Colonel DiMolanta said you'd help me get to Australia.
We don't want men in Australia. We want them here. You want to help win the war, don't you?
Oh, yes, sir, of course.
Fine. What do you know about radio?
Nothing.
Never mind. Here's a radio manual. Study it. I've got a couple of boys here who can teach you the fundamentals. Later on, you'll be in charge of radio operations on Leyte.
Who, me?
Yes, you. That'll save bringing in an extra man all the way from Australia by submarine. You'd be surprised at the plans we've got for a few bright, steady young men like you, Palmer.
Yes, sir. Thus it came about that the provincial government of Free Leyte, as authorized by President Quezon and General MacArthur, was established under the very noses of the enemy. We were starting from scratch, but the people of Leyte were quick to respond, offering what they had freely and generously. Parts of broken down automobiles, lubricating oils, firearms, wrapping paper, gunny sacks, bolts and nuts by the hundreds, curtain rods, scraps of metal, anything and everything that could conceivably be of use to an army and a government in the making. Great indeed was our joy when occasionally an old storage battery turned up on the junk heap. Never were there enough of these. And when we did find one, we treated it as if it were precious metal, as indeed it was, hovering over it, testing it, and then congratulating ourselves on our good fortune when and if it responded and came alive. As in every army and in every government, we needed money. To get it, we had to print it. A jeweler who did engraving on the side made the wood blocks for us, using Colonel Phillips's Mindanao money as a model. Because the need was great, we resorted to an assembly line. Here, one man would cut the paper to size, another would place it in a frame, stamp it into a pad of ink made of glycerin and lampblack, then press it onto the paper. Some of our money was printed on wrapping paper, some on grade 3 notebook paper, lines and all. But it looked like money, it felt like money, and it served the greatest use of all. It passed for money. Later on, we even published our own newspaper, getting our scant bits of news from a few hidden radios, and reading the paper aloud in 500 villages each week. Until now, communications, such as they were, had depended on runners. Now we used barbed wire from the fences, stretched it, rolled it, and hung it from tree to tree, using old soda pop bottles as insulators, until within 6 weeks, we had strung 150 kilometers of telegraph wires. Needing gasoline, we operated 9 stills to make alcohol out of palm juice and got 6 miles to the gallon. But running automobiles was not its only use. Drinking gasoline, we called it, because it could be, and sometimes was, used for purposes other than those for which it was intended. Our first guns were made of 2 pieces of water pipe, one fitting over the other. Our bullets of old curtain rods. Our powder came mostly from Japanese sea mines, sulfur, saltpeter, and antimony. And when they were finished, we fired them. So. We even made a cannon of a 3-inch pipe with a tapered marlin spike for a firing pin, and a lanyard 30 yards long for protection. An added thought which, as it turned out, proved of immense value. And finally, we organized an army and trained men in guerrilla warfare, practiced the art of spear throwing in case guns and bullets ran out, learned to hack our way through bamboo jungles in carrying out night patrols, to make maps and to read them, to administer first aid, cut and sew sharpened bamboo stakes as booby traps along the roads leading into towns, so the Japanese patrols, when fired upon, would throw themselves on the stakes and thus be impaled. In short, we built an army, restored a government, and over and above everything else, sought to imbue the people with an unconquerable faith in an inevitable victory. It was not all war, however, nor even preparations for war. The Filipinos loved parties as much as anybody, and there were always native bands refugeeing from the big towns, ready to donate their time and talents to raising money for the poor soldiers.
Happy way to break an ankle. Hey, Chuck.